So I'm gonna kick it off, and I would like to share some thoughts about the soul of art or science art in particular in the age of AI, and why I think that handmade art or analog art might be set for a comeback. And this is a somewhat controversial topic. People feel very differently about it. I have a mixed opinion. I mean, I use AI in my workflows for some things, not for other things. I think it can be a very cool tool, but there are some pitfalls. And yeah, for many artists in particular, they hate it because it's partially identity threatening, especially professional identity threatening. I understand this, but yeah, I try to bring across a nuanced view, and I'm looking also forward to discussion at the end. So let's start off with the good side. AI can be this amazing tool. And it's really, when the stuff came out a couple of years ago, my mind was blown. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. This is crazy amazing. When I have an idea, when I sit at home at midnight and I have some whatever idea in my mind, and usually it would take me hours to sketch it out and come with a prototype. Now I can do it in like literally 1 minute. So one of the most amazing features I think is that you have rapid prototyping. You can try different ideas and see how they might play out like this. And it's still fun to me every time I use it that whatever I come up with, you type it into the model and then 1 minute later you get a visual representation of whatever idea you had in your head. Another nice feature, I think, is for what I call utility graphics. So graphics that don't claim to be of particular artistic value, but for presentations, let's say, or the simple stuff, icons for websites. Also for this talk, I generated some of these graphics with AI. I think there it comes in really handy because you can make custom visuals without having to have the technical expertise, and it's just fast and time saving. And lastly, I think it's a very cool brainstorming assistant. And what I mean by this, that not only when it comes to visuals, but also when it comes to writing or whatever, when you feel stuck or you need inspiration for how to go about something, then asking chat or your favorite large language model can often be a great help to come up with cool ideas. So these are a couple of use cases I think which are really interesting. But then there's also, yeah, and then I would like to show you some images I made, which I don't think, I wouldn't consider this the pinnacle of my artistic creation, but it was fun to play around with. For example, here we have a take on Waddington's landscape, which the biologists among you will be well familiar with. It's kind of the psychedelic take. What if Waddington would have been on acid while imagining his landscape? And this was not a prompt. This was, I took the original sketch of Waddington's landscape and then I applied textures using AI models. So hardly anything what I do AI-wise is I type in a prompt and then I get an output and that's it. It's a lot of co-creation. Photoshop comes in very helpful. And then this other example I mentioned, this is from a workshop slide I did where you have utility graphics and they just can be nice ways to get the individual points across you want to make. So for this, I think it's very cool, but then there are also these obvious pitfalls that AI comes with a lot of issues. And this is a mural from a guy I love, Lush Sachs, he's called. And it's a very iconic painting. You probably recognize it. And he nicely makes this reference to the weird features AI does with human hands, but also with other stuff. So I think this one nicely nails it. It's a creation, one of the iconic creation paintings with a weird AI twist. And the next couple of minutes I would like to spend to talk about some of the issues that are associated with AI. And one very prominent one is that at first sight, many like AI generated graphics look good. For example, this schematic of a eukaryotic cell, I did this like a couple of hours ago with ChatGPT, but the closer you look, the more issues you see. So for example, here we have the most organized, they overlook fine, But next to the fact that they are wrongly labeled, some things just don't make sense. The nuclear envelope doesn't make sense. Here we have a flagellum, here we have cilia. So as soon as you look into the details, we see that there are actually a lot of misrepresentations, which especially when it comes to science communication, can be a real issue. Lilian drew a nice arrow. If you manage to get rid of it, I'm happy. But I had the same issue with the talk. It took me a couple of minutes to figure out how to get rid of it. I don't remember, but you will figure it out. Another example is a DNA helix. This one is also drawn by ChatGPT. And it looks good on first sight, but it's actually not correct. So you don't have the major and minor grooves. The base anatomy is also a little bit twisted. This is how an actual DNA helix would look like. So the closer you look, the more apparent the issues become, which AI-generated graphics have. Now, another issue, which I think becomes more and more relevant in the future, is what I would call style flattening. So AI tends towards averages. And when people will use AI to make their graphics or their videos or their movie scripts or write novels, whatever, true originality is very hard to achieve with these models. I mean, here's what you get when you ask AI to draw a set of cartoonish characters. And as you can appreciate, they kind of look all the same. It's all the bland, boring, same look. And it lacks the edge, which makes human art so interesting. And the most important aspect, I think, why I also am confident that artists don't have to be too worried is that communication ultimately is about connection. And turns out that people don't like connecting with robots. They don't want to connect with machines or large language models. In fact, they are pretty fed up by now. So if you write content and it sounds like AI written contract, then your audience will be gone in no time. Because in the end, what humans want is they want to connect with other humans. And when it comes to art, I would say art is just a medium. In the end, what most art or all artistic works are about is human to human connection. And this will not be replaced by models ever. It's a bold claim, but I'm fairly convinced about this. Another interesting thing to think about when thinking about using AI visuals for, let's say, science communication or science art is to spend a minute contemplating what visuals signal. Everything you do, or there's this nice quote of you cannot not communicate. Everything you do communicates something in some way. And when something looks like obvious AI generation, it will have its very own things that it communicates. And here's, for example, one image I asked ChatGPT to draw of myself. And it's this generic, hyper-saturated AI style, which frankly just makes me want to throw up. This is a bit of an obvious example, but here we have what you get when you ask for a lab, modern genetics lab. And you can tell immediately, you maybe cannot point your finger at it, but you can tell immediately that this was made by a model and it has this generic style, and it just kind of makes you want to shy away from it. And more importantly, maybe in the science context, what AI visual signal is low effort. It means that you didn't put in the effort in order to come up with something original and unique that you made yourself. So here we have the science guy. He needs a bar graph. He's very happy with it. Then he wants a diagram of a protein structure. It looks great, but it's also shit because it's very far from any real looking protein structure at the same time. And I think this is what many people overlook when you make a LinkedIn post and you advertise with an AI image, with an obvious AI image, then it looks like you didn't put a lot of effort into it. And I'm surprised that many companies, even Coca-Cola, does AI generated ads. And it's a pretty bad signal because what it signals to me is that your company isn't willing to invest a budget to pay someone professional to come up with something that has actual character and style. So it's a very low effort signal. And just like when you write a paper, the effort you put into your figures, first of all, it will make your figures look nice, but people will deduce from that that you were similarly careful with the science you did. So it shines on the overall body of work you present to them. And if you use AI for communication, then it doesn't make your overall effort look in a, yeah, it doesn't make your work appear in a very good light. And then last, maybe funny comment on the side, what you see in this cartoon here is that it has this yellowish touch. This is a common feature of many AI-generated graphics. And there's this artist, I unfortunately forget who it was, but he basically distilled the average color of AI-generated images, and it's something like this, and he called it the piss filter. So here we have the AI piss filter yellow, which is a dead giveaway that something was generated with AI. And I feel people by now are very sensitive to this, and they don't appreciate it. Because in the end, obvious AI generated images, they will make you look cheap. I don't say that any AI generated image makes you look cheap. If you know how to play it well and you co-create with Photoshop, you can get visuals which look nice and serve a purpose. And I wouldn't per se oppose on using them. But be aware that the moment people can smell AI, they are gone or their respect is gone for whatever you present them with in conjunction of that. So this brings me to the second part of my talk. Let me have a quick check on the watch. I'm slightly over time already. I think that all this AI art will have one of the consequences it will have is that digital imagery is undergoing somewhat an inflationary perception of value. So I think what will have a comeback is analog art, stuff where you can be sure that it's 100% human made. And I recently pivoted to doing more of this. I also still do digital design. I also use AI for some of the things I do. But what I really love about analog art is that you don't sit in front of a screen. And that's just nice for my brain and my soul. And it's really good to get some off-screen time in my professional life. And then finally, you always have a physical outcome that you can hang somewhere, which is nice, which you can marvel at for a long time to come. And a physical piece of art just has a different quality than something you see on a screen. So I think nothing beats good old-fashioned handmade stuff, and I'm trying to do more of this in my work. So I would like to finish with one example of a nice handmade project I did recently, a couple of months ago, which is when I was about to finish my PhD, then I was about to trash my oligo collection. I had like 1,500 whatever tiny oligo tubes. And while starting to throw them away, my PI walks by and she says, "Hey, Philip, why don't you do something interesting out of them?" And I figured she might have a cool idea there, so I kept them. And then I asked other colleagues from the institute if they would donate their oligo tubes to me. And they did. And then I had around 11,000 oligo tubes. And then my home institute, the IMP in Vienna, had a nice idea to commission me for a nice artwork. And we made a prototype. Could we paint these oligo tubes and arrange them in a metal rack? And it worked, it looked nice. So then next on my terrace, I painted 10,000 tubes by hand with spray paint. First you have to wash them, then you have to sand them, then you have to prime them, then you have to paint them, then you have to apply varnish. So it was a lot of work, in total maybe 150 hours or so. And then we decided to make a motive. And the motive in this case was honoring the founding director of the Vienna Biocenter, who rose to scientific fame by being the first one to isolate a complex eukaryotic gene. And this was Xenopus rDNA. So we want to make the portrait of Max Birnstiel is his name. And in the background, we featured the sequence of the rDNA locus that he first isolated. So the tubes you see here in the background, it's a four-color code for ATGC, and it's really the 7,000 base pairs of the Xenopus rDNA locus, which was the first eukaryotic gene that we managed to physically isolate ever. And then we thought of one perk, which is Max Birnstiel was also the first one to describe or to sequence the 5.8 sRNA of Xenopus. So we added one red tube to the piece. And in this red tube is the actual synthesized DNA sequence of the 5.8 sRNA. And at the end, we had to embed the whole thing in resin. So just to give you an idea of how this looks, this is my living room. And when you embed anything in resin, it's this high stakes situation because if you fuck it up, you have to start from scratch. So this gets you also an idea of scale. I could have pulled my pants up a little more for the video. Sorry for that. But so over here we have 10,000 oligotubes in this metal grid, which are being about to be embedded in resin. One doesn't see it, but I was so anxious in this moment that anything would go wrong. Luckily, it didn't. And here we have the final outcome. So it's a yeah 140 centimeters on 140 piece titled Locus acrylic on 10,000 oligotubes. And that was my favorite handmade artwork of last year. It's exhibited at the IMP here in Vienna. And yeah, I'm looking forward to do more of that. And to conclude my talk, what AI does, it generates images, but what humans do, they generate significance. So I think that while co-creation is an interesting tool in the toolbox of an artist, that human-generated art is here to stay and will not easily be replaced by AI models because what we want as humans is to connect with other humans, and no robot will ever take this place for us. And with that, it's time to conclude. Thank you for your attention. And it's my pleasure to pass it on to Chloe Lim, who joins us from Australia. And for her, it's, I think, past midnight. So I'm extra grateful that she agreed on doing this. And I'm looking very much forward to hear Chloe's talk, which will be about science balloons, a topic I didn't know existed before I met Chloe and her work. So enjoy and have fun listening to Chloe's amazing work.